Hi, I'm Pastor Freda, pastor of Seaman Memorial Lutheran Church and chaplain of Passivant Community. God has given each and every one of us gifts. And we read about spiritual gifts, particularly in the books of 1st and 2nd Corinthians. Paul talks a lot about gifts being given to us, and he describes what some of these gifts are. And some of them are preaching and teaching, administration, and other things. And the key is, first of all, to acknowledge that we have gifts. And second, to discover those gifts and decide what we're going to do once we have discovered our gifts. I compare sharing our gifts to Christmas presents. I love to use this analogy. We can discover our gifts, and like on Christmas morning, we see a present there, and it can be beautifully wrapped, and we might say, the wrapping's too pretty to open. I'm just going to let it sit there and admire it. And we never open it and discover what's inside. We can rip into that gift, see what it is, and say, this is great. It's too good to share with anybody else. I'm going to keep it for myself. Or we can open that gift, discover it, and say, oh my goodness, this is great. I'm going to share it. That's what God calls us to do with our gifts. And maybe you're not sure where your gifts are, or maybe where your gifts were isn't the same as it is now because circumstances have changed. We all have gifts that we are able to share. And it's important to not only discover them, but to embrace them. I'd like to share a story with you. In my first congregation, as part of new members orientation, we would do what's called a spiritual gifts assessment. And people would fill out the form, and then we'd look at it, and we'd ask people, okay, what were some of your gifts? And, sometimes a teacher would say, teaching. A musician would say, music. And so people would share those answers that we kind of expected. And then I would ask, were there any surprises? And one person in particular, he said, this says I have the gift of mercy. He didn't see it in himself. But boy, others in the group who had gotten to know him said, oh yeah, Tom, definitely. And he had a couple of choices to make as he discovered this gift. He could just ignore it and say, what does this assessment know? It's not me. But he didn't do that. Tom took that gift to heart and unwrapped it and decided to see where it led him. And it led him to becoming a Stephen minister, which is a program for one-on-one caregiving that supplements pastoral care. And he was such a blessing to the people that he visited. And he was also blessed through that ministry. And he then went on to take the training to become a Stephen leader so that he could help new Stephen ministers discover their gifts and embrace them. And we have gifts. Embrace them, discover them, and find ways to share them with others in this community, in the congregations you attend. However you are able to share them, I invite and encourage you to do so. Peace and blessings.